With a population of over 2.7 million plus residents, Chicago is the third most populous city in the United States. Along with its rich past and cultural heritage, it also holds one of America's deadliest streetcar accidents. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to my channel. Today, I am going to tell you the story of the Green Hornet streetcar disaster. In the year 1950, the Chicago Transit Authority streetcar, also known as the Green Hornet streetcar at the time, was a common sight in Chicago. The city had just purchased hundreds of new electric trams, which due to their distinctive green and cream coloring came to be known as Green Hornets. These vehicles could seat around 57 passengers, apiece with room for more standing. Each Green Hornet was staffed by 2 Chicago Transit Authority workers. A driver would pilot the tram, and a conductor would sit at the rear doors to take tickets and answer passenger queries to ride. One would pull through a wide door at the back of the vehicle to take a seat, and then board through to narrow doors further up the car until your destination was reached. Although like every other tram or streetcar, the Green Hornets ran on rails, their routes weren't always fixed. The day was May 25, 1950. An underpass near the intersection of State and 63rd Streets had flooded. As the motor of most streetcars on the network was situated very low in the chassis, even a relatively small amount of standing water was a problem. To assist with this, the Chicago Transit Authority appointed Charles Climb. His job would be to stand beside the switch and signal approaching streetcars to slow down. He would then be required to operate, switch, and send them into the loop so that they could turn around to the eastbound route. He did his job diligently, waving down and turning around streetcars as they arrived. At around evening 6:30, the ill-fated crowded tram was making its way through the streets of Chicago. The streetcar was heading south on State Street to the intersection where the underpass was flooded. Climb approached and waved at it to slow down, but it didn't. Surprised, Climb moved forward and waved again, more urgently, but the streetcar still didn't slow down. Despite Climb's now frantic gestures, it carried on at full speed, straight past him. The motorman of the streetcar was not paying attention, missing the frantic signals of Climb on the street, and went through that switch at total velocity. Unbeknown to the motorman that a gasoline truck was standing in front of his way. The streetcar plowed through the track and collided with the fully loaded tanker truck hauling gasoline. Fuel spilled out, forming a pool around the wreck, and quickly ignited in a giant fireball blocking State Street 200 feet north of 63rd Street. The motorman of the streetcar, Paul Manning, died at his post. The driver of the truck, Mel Wilson, died in the cab of the truck. The conductor of the streetcar, William C. Liddell, survived. A 14-year-old girl, Beverly Clark, was alone as a passenger on the tram at the point of collision and managed to open the center door using the emergency handle, saving several people from the inferno. The remaining passengers swelled to the rear doors, which opened inwards. The conductor, William Liddell, managed to temporarily open the rear doors by pulling the levers. The interior of the car was now full of smoke, confusion, and noise. Nonetheless, he pulled the levers and the doors miraculously sprang open little, and a small number of other passengers were able to escape. However, the crush around the doors was so intense that it soon forced them to close. Again, the remaining passengers were left with few other options. They had only seconds left to escape using whatever came to hand. Several broke windows and attempted to squeeze through them. Only a few were successful in this attempt. Arlene Franson, an 18-year-old, escaped through a small side window, but others got trapped in this small gap. When she turned around, she saw other passengers who happened to have been on the streetcar attempting to escape through the same window. As Arlene watched them, she was overwhelmed by the flames and rushed to help those few who could escape. But most rescuers were soon beaten back by the spreading flames. By the time firemen and other emergency personnel arrived on the scene, there was nobody left alive on board. The flames from the car were so immense that they couldn't even determine that there was a streetcar in the midst of them. 34 people died in the streetcar, while 50 people, some on the streetcar and others in the surrounding area, were injured. The fire spread to several nearby buildings and parked cars. 5 buildings were destroyed on the east side of State Street between the 6,239 and 6,247 addresses, making over 100 people homeless by the collateral damage. The total property damage was estimated to be around $150,000, accounting for inflation to be $16 million in 2022. According to the National Safety Council's report, 2 days after the crash, it was the largest death toll from a motor vehicle collision, surpassing the 29 people killed in a 1940 Texas train truck collision. Some victims were identified immediately because of personal belongings, whereas other victims were identified at the Cook County morgue by friends and relatives in the days following the crash. An investigation was launched into the accident. Several key factors were identified. The performance of Charles Cline, the flagman who had been responsible for signaling the approaching streetcars to slow down at the turnaround loop, was called into question. It emerged that he had not been wearing all of his uniform gears and had not carried the flags and signal flares usually used for this task. The design of the Green Hornet also came in for some criticism, the doors that would only open inwards and not outwards, which would have saved more lives. And the lack of easily accessible emergency door releases had all made escape from the burning streetcar next to impossible for the victims of the accident. Mel Wilson, the driver of the fateful trolley, had been involved in 10 minor accidents during his career, but had never had his fitness to drive questioned. William C. Liddell, the streetcar conductor, disappeared after the crash but was arrested the day after, charged with leaving the scene of the accident. Finally, the rules concerned in the whole edge of gas through the city of Chicago were examined. Other cities made deliveries at night or enforced a mandatory maximum on the amount of gasoline that could be hauled along certain routes. In 1955, the Chicago Transit Authority claimed it paid a total of $900,000, estimated to be $8.9 million in 2022, to families of the deceased. However, in 1958 the CTA elected to stop using streetcars entirely. The intersection where the collision took place is unmarked, and unremarkably, thousands pass this junction every single day, unaware entirely that they are passing the site of the worst public transit disaster in Chicago history. I hope you liked the video. If so, please show some support by clicking the like button. Also, don't forget to share your comments below. We upload content like this every week. Thank you for watching. This is Jessica signing off.